Hi, all my quilting friends. I've got a little tip for you, something that I decided to use a long time ago. I've known about these for a long time because I remember my grandmother using them, but I never realized you can use them on a quilt when placing piano keys so that you have them nice and evenly spaced. And it's called a Simflex expanding sewing gauge. So this is what it is. And then look, you can measure out exactly where you want your piano keys to line up on your quilt. So I'm going to show you how I use this to get my piano keys on a quilt. I don't always use it. I'll use a ruler, but if I want these spaced out in a certain way, the piano keys spaced out in a certain way, this is what I'm going to use. So here we go. I'm going to All right, here I am. I'm at the bottom of the quilt, and this right here is my border. It's an awful large border, and I'm going to put piano keys in it, evenly spaced, and I want to show you the quilt here. You see we have the blocks, and then we have sashing, then we have blocks, then we have sashings. So I want my piano keys to line up with each sashing so that there's no space. They're not uneven. Everything will line up on this block as well as the next block. So I'm going to put my gauge right here. This last one is lined up here. And then we have the other one lined up over on this side. So, and remember, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but close is good. And now what I'll do is I'm going to take my machine, and I'm not going to stitch because I'm actually holding the camera with one hand. So I'm going to start here on this side of the sashing, and if you have channel locks on your machine, that's great because it locks in a vertical stitch and it won't move horizontal, or you can just use your ruler, line your ruler up here and follow your ruler and then stitch down all the way down to the edge and then stitch back up right on top of those stitches up to the point where you started. Then we're going to slide over to our next gauge point and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to line up our ruler all the way down and then all the way back up. And then we're going to scoot over. We're stitching in the ditch up here, going from this point to the next point, all the way stitching in the ditch. Now, when I get to this very end part over here, I will end up here. And then I'm going to take the gauge because we know fabric shifts and blocks are not perfectly straight. So then I'm going to have to readjust. I'm going to stitch in the ditch across here. Then I'm going to have to readjust my gauge here and make sure that this first gauge line here lines up with the sashing. And the last one lines up with the sashing. And you just squeeze them together or pull them apart until you have that lined up. And then you do your next section of piano keys. And that's how you use this gauge, and it's been very helpful for me.